Welcome to week 4, I believe it is.
Yeah.
We're on week 4, we're on camera support.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start with something that a lot of people consider janky around the cage, but has a use, and that's the 3-wheel dolly. And I'll introduce the tripod that it's on. But 3-wheel dolly can be used for a shot if you needed to. It's probably the last ditch effort to actually use it. But as you can see right now, I'm moving around the studio freely, and then I can lock my tripod and take my shot. And then when I'm ready to move again, I can unlock. Instead of having to pick the whole setup off, take the camera off, my whole setup can just roll to the next shot and get ready to go. So if you plan to do a build in the King Center like we are right now, you could use this method to save you some considerable time on set, tearing down and setting up tripod wherever you're shooting your shots. That's pretty much the only use for this though. If you try to do this anywhere that's not a flat, level floor, you're gonna have some serious problems. So it does adjust. So I'll go back down here to show you how the controls work. Basically, it's just a clamp that's attaching to the foot right here. And there's 2 adjustments. There's one to move this whole clamp system in or out. Most of the time I found it needs to be all the way out. And then this clamp is holding the foot in there so that it can't fall out by accident. That's pretty much it. But like I said, I don't expect many people to want to check that out, but I'm covering it anyway. We're on the E-image tripod right now, which I'm sure you are all very familiar with. We've got our lock for our pan and tilt, and we've got counterbalance for our pan and tilt, or at least our pan. So let me zoom in. So you guys can see that better. Come on, full focus. Sorry, autofocus on a webcam is not that great. Okay, anyway, this knob right here that has the plus and minus is our counterbalance. On the other side of the tripod, sorry, I have my lock knob on, is our actual locking knob. People get these confused and think that all I need to do to keep the tripod from falling is to lock it, and that's not true. Lock off, I usually only do if I'm stepping away from the camera completely, and I'm okay with leaving it on the sticks for 5 minutes. Otherwise, if I'm trying to balance the camera on the tripod, I will leave this lock and pan lock off, and I will start using my counterbalance. So let's say it's loosey-goosey. Oh no, there goes the camera. So we're going to turn this all the way up. And now I can still move the camera within reason and not have it dip forward and act like it's going to fall off the tripod. You'll find this on all of the tripods we have in the cage. Whether it has pan is another story. This particular one doesn't have a pan counterbalance, but some of our higher end ones do. That's the main thing I feel like nobody has noticed on tripods is counterbalance. And it's a tool that you use for every shot for the most part. Tripods are underrated in a lot of ways with what they're able to do. I'm not going to go over the basics of how to use a tripod because I expect you guys know how to do that. But on some of them, there's a mid-level spreader that can come completely out, and you can go all the way down as if you were on a hi-hat. If you don't have that ability, like with the E-image, you're going to have to get a hi-hat just to be aware of how your shots are working. The other thing I want to mention, these knobs are not bulletproof. If you over tighten these too much, I won't be able to do anything to fix them. So please, when you get it tight, go another quarter turn. That's all you need. You don't need anything more than that. If you do any more than that, it will literally strip the screw. I've watched e-image locks right here. This get cranked and it will shear off. And there's nothing I can do with that head anymore because I can't even dig out the screw to replace it. So please don't do that. Quarter turn after tight is all you need on any knob in the cage in general. Anybody have any questions about tripods? The other thing I'll mention is lower end tripods only have one screw on them. They have a 1/4-20 screw. Our higher ends have a 3/8 screw and a 1/4-20 screw. And that's just the size. So you're gonna have a smaller one and a bigger one, and they can attach in 2 places so that we don't get this loosey-goosey back and forth, have to take it off, retighten issue with 2 screws because you have 2 points of contact. So even if they are loose, there's gonna be less wiggle room. If you don't see 2 screws on a Manfrotto, a Sackler, let me know. I'm gonna fix it because it's a major issue for feeling stable with your camera on a tripod. And it can ruin your day if you don't have it. So, that's pretty much it for this tripod. But as you can probably see in the background here, we've got the doorway dolly set up, which is another way to get movement. So this is like the super cheap and dirty, first time you shoot a movie, you can get a sliding shot like this. But as you can see, I just caught on the floor because one of the wheels was all janky. So you're gonna get that up and down jitter with this, but it is an option if there's nothing else available in the cage. How's it coming over there, guys?
Good.
Good?
The tripod plate is not tight.
No, it's being janky today. I don't know why.
I just leave it?
Yeah, we're gonna go with it for today. We're gonna move on to the doorway dolly. All right, this is the Matthews doorway dolly. I'm sure some of you are familiar with it, but if you're not, this is a great way to do a tracking shot. It's preferred to do it on track, which we're using the skates for. That is basically glorified skateboarding wheels that are adapted for the system. And that gives us a nice smooth track all the way down the line. And this platform can extend with these 2 guys right here, to give you more breathing room. So you can make it go down to the side of the door so that you can go through a door. That's why it's called a doorway dolly. But most of the time the wings are going to be on, so your cam op can be here. And best case scenario, your AC's here, so he can pull focus and I can pull the shot the way I want it. That's pretty much the short and simple. You do need a dolly grip that is going to give you, they're basically controlling the pacing of your shot. You can tell them, hey, I want that at half speed, I want that at 75%, or tell them, and what they need to know that's most crucial, what's my starting and end point? And do I do a soft end? Do I do a hard end? All of that. So for an example, Milton is again.
Video's not.
Here and I'll track you that way. Yeah. And you can go towards
There we go.
stool over there in the corner. Can everybody see that okay on the screen, the monitor?
Yep.
So go ahead and walk at normal pace, Milton. Go ahead and try to track him. So obviously you can see my tracks, but I could adjust my shot to help with that. Go ahead and stop right there. Go ahead and go back, Milton. Did that help figure out how fast he was going? So obviously this is going to take a few practice runs to get this perfect. Go ahead and go back. No, we can stop there. Let's make that our endpoint. And our other endpoint, of course, will be for the track stops. Right about there. Yep. So best case scenario, your AC is going to have some spike tape that they can mark the wheel with. You want to show them where her foot is.
Yeah.
If you don't have spike tape, anything will work. Put that tire right by there. So you have a mark.
I think that would be like a good for like one of the big clamps we have. There's like
Yes.
several different clamps.
You could use a clamp. I usually use grip clamps, which
Yeah.
is gator clamps.
Yeah.
You can use for all kinds of different things. And then, so that was our practice shot. And something I noticed is that I am way taller than Milton right now. So I'm gonna come down, that's all, considerably. Balance. All right, now I'm set. So we can go again. What I like to say is, when you're starting a shot for a dolly, you can say action and then action dolly, or something to that effect. That way, you could say action for your character. So Milton, if you back up about 10 feet towards the wheels, let's say his starting point is there. He's going to walk into shot, and then the director would say action or dolly, and that's when we start moving, so that he's already in movement when we start moving. That's an idea. So let's do that. Let's pretend that Emily's the director. She can make that call. Okay?
Okay, and action Milton. Action Dolly.
Go ahead and pause right there. So this is the most crucial part to learn with the dolly, is we did a really hard stop, which can be noticed on camera. So the hardest part about being a dolly gripper, so if you want to swap, you came up, because I have done this a few times. Hardest part about being a dolly gripper is knowing your pacing and when to ease into it, into the shot or beginning of the shot. And this is an official job in Hollywood. This is all you do as a dolly gripper. This assists the camera. So let's try that again.
Back right above the ball.
You're good.
Foot placement.
Yep. Cool. Same shot. Go ahead, Emily.
All right, action Milton. And Dolly.
That's a good example of I came to a soft stop so the camera doesn't jerk so we can still use the end of the shot. Now, the obvious thing when you're watching throwing your dolly grip is these cross members. That's part of what I'm doing with my eyes. The other part is I'm watching her and the actor so that I can get the right pacing. What did you think of the pacing? Cool. That's pretty much it for the dolly. You can adjust everything else. But does anybody have any questions online about setting this up? Or in the room? You guys have any questions?
Nope.
No.
Nope, okay. The most simple, the other reason why you want to use a doorway dolly, you want to get that sandbag off, put it on the tripod. We have two doorway dollies. So I'm going to show you the other way to use the doorway dolly to get the same type of shot without track. Because that does happen from time to time. Especially if you don't have a truck. So you can use this handle to control major turns, get it in and out of location mostly, because as you can hear it squeaks. And then you stick it in here, put it down, and that lets me adjust more minor changes to the turn. Let's move this knob over. All right. So let's say we don't have track, or our scene doesn't allow for track. For example, if we're shooting a really wide shot and we want to be able to get the ground, we could just use the doorway dolly as is. So for ease of the state, if you want to grab the tripod, put it on. Sorry, man. But, in my bad.
Really? My sister's name. Oh, okay. I was like, dang, okay. I don't think we
Alright.
like that.
So, same exact setup, but we don't have track, and I don't have the sides on. So it's kind of a janky setup for a DP. If you want to be on there. You can put the stand on if you wish. Stand is an excellent idea. It's a nice pro tip. Especially if you have a mid-level, you can put it up here.
Yeah.
Keep it from moving around too much.
Can we be back on here?
Yep. Probably want one further here.
That's changed.
Okay. Now, I'm going to be using these two because this will go left and right as I adjust it. But I'm not going to do that too much. Yeah, and you can always move the camera off
Yeah.
as much as you can. Yeah. Okay. All right, Emily, you ready?
Yeah.
Nelson, you ready? Do the same idea. And you can walk across the tracks. We're changing the shot a little bit.
All right.
Okay?
Action. Action dolly.
But let's say that works. That's another way to achieve the same shot. And as long as the wheels are lubricated and everything, you can get the same shot without the track. So let's say right here, the doorway that we just went through, that's how you would achieve that shot. Because the track may not fit through the doorway. I believe it's possible, but it's a lot harder to fit a 10-foot track through a doorway. So, anybody have any questions about that part? Good? Chase? Okay.
Doing good here.
Let's move on then. All right, so say I'm shooting an action film. I know shoulder mounts are probably something everybody knows how to use, but I'm gonna give you a few pro tips. Like this dude in the back here, you may not know, but there's an adjustment for how big your shoulder is. So if you got big, broad shoulders like me, that might fit better on your shoulder blade back here if you adjust it. Another thing, these are rosette mounted, so I can put this handle at any direction I need it to be, to pull focus, to offset the weight of the camera in a way. Any position, as long as it locks, it can go in a lot of different positions. So if I want a hip shot, I can adjust my handles so that I'm getting a good shot like this of an action whip pan or something like that. The rest of it's pretty basic as far as what you'd actually do with a shoulder mount. So I'm going to tell you how to do that. If you have any questions, you're welcome to ask me.
You should
But-
tell them that there's two different ones too.
There are two different types of shoulder mounts in the cage. This is the shape shoulder mount,
It's,
which is the more professional one. It has a whole bunch of hookups options, a nice plate, and it's got the rosette handles. If we're all out of these, the other option is called a Revo shoulder mount, which is much more low budget, where it has tightening screws for the handles and for this. It's not nearly as adjustable, but it gets the job done.
Also, another thing, like on my shoot this weekend, there's two different ones. There's one that ones that you can use on the FS7 or like whatever camera, but there's a specific plate for the EVA. If you accidentally get the one that's not for the EVA, what you can also do is the EVA comes with rails. So you can just literally take these off and put it onto the rails on the EVA, and that works just as well.
That is another way to attach
And
shoulder
it's
mount.
probably easier because we're switching between shoulder mount and like dolly and tripod and stuff a lot. So if you just like literally take this and that off, you don't have to like reset up your camera each time.
That is another way to attach shoulder mount. This is the most common way for small cameras, what she just described, where you take these handrails off and this back piece off. You can use the 18-inch rails on an EVA1 or an FS7 to achieve the same goal, but all be built into the camera's rail system, which is already built on to the bottom. So you can save yourself some bulk and weight The only difference, well, I guess this would be your shoulder padding. So,
Yeah. Yeah,
that works
it's-
perfectly, actually.
I like it better than
Good point.
doing the whole thing. Yeah.
This is something that's loved and hated in the cage. It's called a fig rig. And it does come with a strap. It's not very padded, but it's an option to keep it if you need to take a break from holding an FS7 or an EVA1. Does have a plate system, but the idea with this is you have a different system of control with these side handles so that you can move around a little more fluidly than you can with a shoulder mount. And it takes away the weight on your shoulder and puts it into your arms. So it's a different way to attach shots. So if you like doing this more, you can do this instead of this. Or if magically all our shoulder mounts are out, this is another option. So, and I have refurbished all of the hand grips on these, so they are good to go now. If they start on.
And what is that called?
No. Go ahead.
What is that called?
It's called a fig rig.
Okay.
Cool.
FIG.
Yeah, think like you're eating a fig and it's a rig.
Yep.
Cool? Here's good. So, this is called the Liebeck slider. We have a couple different types of sliders in the cage. This is probably the best that we have next to what I'm going to show you after this, if we have it here. Did we get the data on?
No,
Everybody over in the cage?
She did not grab that at all yet.
Okay.
Nobody was on the cage.
We'll try and get that for me. All right. Emily, you want my card? You can get back in.
Yes. I would love.
There you go. All right. For sake of time, I'm not going to put a camera on here, but you can see exactly what I'm doing. This is mounted onto 2 tripods, and it has ball adapters that are attached underneath here as your support for this setup. And there is a locking system and a drag screw. This is most commonly used for side tracking shots. So let's say that I'm having a character walk across frame this way. You can do a dolly shot, but it's rather limited. So if you want a teensy bit of movement, almost a parallax type of feel, you can do that. You just would have to make sure that your track's not in the shot, which is much easier than the dolly track, obviously. So I could pull that with a character or push into a character. This is a way to achieve a dolly zoom effect if you needed to in a controlled environment rather than on a dolly. And I could mark my end and beginning points, and then my AC could mark his zoom point. This tripod setup is the best for anything taller than on the ground. We do have one that's set up for on the ground type of shots right now. It should come with all these pieces. It should come with 2 sets of legs and a ball head mount, which is this is a Manfrotto 502 head. And then the track, of course. And there should be 2 handles that attach underneath for your ball head mount. One thing I will mention was sliders. So we just showed you with the doorway dolly, that setup, as long as you have a tripod that can handle it, can hold an Arri Alexa. It can hold a Red. Anything large enough that you wouldn't be considering something like this for it. I believe this slider is only meant to hold up to 8 pounds, which unfortunately includes the ball head that I just put on. So you're going to notice some issues once you put an FS7 on here. You're probably going to notice that it's shaky and that your footage doesn't look as great as you want it to without perfecting it. There is another way to attack this that we've purchased recently, but we don't have rails dedicated to it. I will introduce it once Emily gets back. Let's show on the other one, the syrup. So basically what I'm saying is if you want the best performance out of these sliders, don't use anything bigger than an NX100 because it won't be able to take the weight and it's not designed for it.
So you did the camera that I own. work over
The tripod,
that? No, my camera.
it will, but it's gonna take a lot of practice to get it to work. Same with this syrup. I looked this one up and it can only hold about 5 pounds is what I think it's meant to do. This one might be a tiny bit more stable than this, just because it's got longer, thicker rods. But these were meant for mirrorless SLRs or DSLRs or hybrid cameras, like the Blackmagic Pocket. They are not meant for the high-end cameras that we have. They just can't handle the weight. And as you can see, you would need 2 tripods to mount a syrup in the same way. We only have 2 of these in the cage. And I think we have about 8 of these in the cage. But like I said, if it's available, it's a way to achieve a shot. Every one of these things can do something. You just have to be aware of what you're using it for. And in the future, on Connect 2, I will have the weight for each of these that's it's capable of holding, or what it's rated for. I don't believe it's in there right now. I've been working on that. So, but this setup on the ground, I'm gonna put it on the ground. Is a great way to get a low shot. So for example, you need to get a tracking shot of somebody's feet ominously walking past camera. Or if we need to make a character look taller and mightier than he actually is, you can shoot a nice slow sliding shot. Same can be achieved up here if you can get tall enough. Don't believe these tripods get tall enough to actually do a true overhead shot. What I'm gonna show you when Emily gets back, and we might need to just take a break until she gets back so we can build it, is called a Dana dolly. A lot of people use it as their main dolly to avoid the bulk of bringing a Matthews dolly on set. It's basically about this big, can hold your ball mount head, fluid head, and you can achieve the same kind of parallax on what's called speed rail. Speed rail is the same thing that we use for 20 by 20s and 8 by 8s, any frame to build a silk or a flag on set. And it's 1 1/4 inch pipe. And usually it's aluminum just to make it a little bit lighter. I'll explain a little bit more about that in a minute. Have we not covered anything in there? Oh, why don't you grab the hi-hat so we can cover that real quick. If you don't have a tripod on your shoot that can handle taking its spreader off, like some of the Sacklers do it and some of the Manfrottos do it, you're gonna have to get one of these called a hi-hat to place on the ground, or more popularly, on a 6-foot ladder to get that overhead shot. So you can go taller than a tripod can. If you do it on a 6-foot ladder, which we do actually have over here, you can use a strap, a moving strap, and crank it down to keep this from moving around. And then you have a perfect fluid head mounted to the top of a 6-foot ladder so you can get your bird's eye shots. It's very popular for low budget if you can get your hands on a 6-foot ladder. This just has a 501 head on it, I believe. 503, excuse me. So this will handle about as much as a standard Manfrotto head. Something I didn't cover in tripods. So I'll circle back to that, and I apologize for not covering that originally. Yeah, if you want to take these, I'll roll this into the shot again. Tripods have a different weight that they can take. I mentioned it briefly with counterbalance. E-images, I wouldn't put anything bigger than 8 pounds on here. Most likely 5 pounds. Really only meant for NX100 or SLR or DSLR. And that goes back to the counterbalance equation of it just can't handle it when the camera is pointing down. Counterbalance is not able to counteract that. On the higher end tripods, like the Sacklers and the Manfrottos, you can do that. You can crank up your counterbalance and still have your camera pointed down or up, and it will not move on you. And just to give everybody a base, 502s, the Manfrotto 502s, I believe can handle 8.8 pounds, if I'm quoting that correctly. That should be in Connect 2. I've done that for all the tripods. 504, which is a little bit bigger and heavier, can handle closer to 15 pounds, I believe. I could be wrong there. But the new Nitrotech N12 and N8 tripods that we have that are a little bulkier heads and have all the control surfaces can handle 17 pounds, which is enough to put a FS7 fully kitted out with a tear deck and a Shogun and a V-mount battery on the back so that you can do all those types of shots. So be aware of that when you're checking out a tripod, because it will matter. And if I see that you're taking out 502, and I know that you're checking out a tear deck, a Shogun, a wireless follow focus unit, I'm gonna be like, hey, you might want a different tripod. And it's amazing what the difference is when you do use one that actually can handle the camera. That's what they're meant for. Now, something else I know I didn't mention, there's different sizes of ball heads. The E-images are 65 millimeter bowls. Now, that's just the area that your ball mount actually sits in. That means it can only accept heads that are 65 millimeters in diameter. Most of our Manfrottos are 75 millimeters, which is a pretty common size. 65 is the budget size. It's what a lot of low-end, under $200 tripods are gonna look like. 75 millimeter is kind of the indie size, if you will, because it's professional enough to hold enough weight, and it's still smaller than 100 millimeter. 100 millimeter is what you're gonna see on set with an Arri Alexa or a Red Monstro, because it's gonna be able to hold up to 100 pounds on the legs itself, and the head will probably hold at least 30 to 40. Those tripods have 3 stages and usually have 4 to 6 legs that all collapse. So it's twice as thick for one leg, and it weighs 20 pounds easily. That's what you're gonna see in the industry. 75 millimeters are most popular in indie filmmaking, just because they're cheaper and they get the job done. 100 millimeter bowls are also popular for jibs, which we do have a jib in the cage. I did not bring it because I don't recommend putting anything bigger than an A7 on it, because it's not designed for anything heavier than that. I do promise that in the future, I'm gonna look into getting a jib for the cage that can hold up to 17 pounds. I found one that might be a good price point and still be capable. So in the future, that might happen, but I'm not gonna say it's gonna happen yet. Just because Emily's not here and we need to build it, I'm gonna give us a break for about 5 minutes, Chase, if that's okay, and we'll come back and introduce the Dana Dolly.
Okay, we're back. Right now we're setting up the Dana Dolly. Right now we ran into some issues, but we wanted to go over it because you might run into some same issues if you're using it. Right now we're changing. So this tool is how you hook the camera to this Dana Dolly here. The original one that we had was not long enough for the ball head that we're using. So we're gonna switch it for a different one.
Let me explain that. You can use any ball head with this setup, but you need to have the right adapters to use it properly. So what you're gonna do is seal this. Can you get that off for me?
Oh, you need that.
Yes. Go the other way.
So also let me explain
Can
this.
you hold this for a second?
Yes, I can.
I need to read.
And take that Manfrotto plate off.
Okay.
It might be hard to get off. Ready, ready, ready. me that, Emily. Go ahead. You meant to?
Here's your tool.
For those watching on Zoom, what we ran into is that I used the wrong adapter on the Dana Dolly to attach to the actual dolly itself with the ball head. And what we're doing now is finding a way around that by using a Manfrotto head instead of the Cartoni head. I'll explain the rest here in a second once I get this ball head adapter off. So the head we're using is called a flathead base. You can buy a Manfrotto with this on it, which is just a bowl adapter that is permanently attached. This is the other version that can have a detachable one so that you can put this on a different style of tripod that doesn't have a ball head. However, most people have a ball head. So we're going to put this onto the Dana Dolly. So if you're doing this with any other tripod, you would actually take this whole thing off from the bottom, which is where you would tighten to balance your tripod. Take it completely off, and you're going to reattach it into the Dana Dolly. What we're doing is using a adapter from the kit. There's 3 of these. There's a 75, 100, and a 65. And I promise it will only work on the one size you actually need. And I think I'm missing a piece here. Hang on.
What do you need?
Well,
A washer?
that, yeah.
Could it possibly be this thing? I think you're missing that.
Yes, that is it. Yep, that's it.
Yep.
So there's a washer in here so that this tiny little attachment has a place to grip on the washer because this hole is much bigger. We're going to insert that. Thank you. I need that washer.
Oh, it's the other side.
Yep.
Trial and error. I don't think we've ever actually put this together yet.
Yeah.
Okay. Yay.
So now we have a ball head on the Dana Dolly. Next comes putting the camera, which is the same as any other setup. We're just going to slide it in. Ideally, the best circumstance with this is you already have a Manfrotto tripod, and you take the ball head out of the tripod, which is actually just called the legs. The head is a separate unit. Take the whole unit and bring it over here. Most DPs will tell you take the camera off, move the head, so the AC will put this in a safe place, take the head off of the legs, bring the head over, set that up, then go and get the camera and mount it. I'm gonna go ahead and zoom out,
Here, I turned it on.
and I'm gonna bring the TV in so you can see our shot.
Oh, it's getting good now. Yeah, it's just, yeah, it's dark.
You guys even able to see? Yep, you can see the TV.
It's just dark. I have to, you have to fix the settings.
It's on auto.
I'm gonna get out of the way so it's people interested.
Yes, that is dark.
I tried to put, probably this is
It's because you're not in, you're in custom. So we're gonna go to,
I know how to use it. I don't know how to set it right now.
it's Infinity. You won't actually get ISO control, it just the exposure index.
Right.
Already it's better.
Yay.
So we're on high game, but that's fine for today. All right.
Just so that people can be able to see what they're doing.
Why don't you aim this at the TV and we'll do a second camera like we did last night. Just this, you get straight on shot. Better?
Yes. This is trippy.
I'm sure it is. That's probably good. You could aim out a little bit. Zoom out. Just so we get the whole TV in the shot. Okay. You want to play your phone?
Yeah.
We're gonna go 2-camera mode here and again, so that you can see what we're actually aiming at. Milton, can we steal you again? Thanks for being a willing volunteer every week. You can start here and walk this way. We'll say this is your end point, roughly here. We'll cut the shot when you get past that.
Oh, should I?
It's inside of here.
Okay,
That's your lock.
there we go.
This is your counterbalance, and this is your counterbalance. Your lock is over here. So
I was looking for the band.
let's loosen the pan lock, so you have some maneuverability with that,
There we go.
but not too much. But let's change your counterbalance. Maybe that might actually be max. Yeah. So we'll just let the lock a little bit. Does that help?
That is all.
All right. So Dana Dolly, everybody's favorite. Reason for that, we can achieve a tracking shot along with the character. We can do parallax, so we could keep them in the frame the same spot by doing a tiny bit of parallax. I'll show you an example. Milton, you want to come in front of the camera?
We're here?
Yeah, right about there. So an example of that is I can start over here and all right. So I can start over here, and you'll notice I'm using my hand to stabilize it. I can keep him in the frame, in the center of the frame. I'm not doing a great job of it, but you can see what I'm going for. Creates a little bit of parallax in the background. That's a very cinematic type of shot for a lot of different things. Another way you can use this is a tracking shot. So if you want to come over here like we were doing, this is a very close tracking shot. So I would not actually do this in the field, but yeah, there you go. That's better. And go. So that's a good example. Let's go back the other way, go a little slower. That gave you guys a pretty good idea of what we're going for. The other way to attack it is a dolly, as long as I don't see my track, which is actually pretty easy, as long as you're not on a 16 mil or something. I'm gonna zoom in here for a second. Maybe. Servo. Yep. Zoom in. Let's see. That's 28. Let's go a little further. Cool. All right. So Milton, why don't you walk towards me and I'll dolly towards you. So that's not a very good example. We want more movement. Start closer to the rails and walk this way. Yeah, there we go. That's what I'm looking for. And go about the same pace as you were, something like that. Or I can reverse it and track with them. So lots of options you can do with this. Obviously, the biggest thing is it takes just about as much setup as it does for the Dana Dolly. This takes 30 minutes thereabouts to get built at the beginning of the day. And then if you know what you're doing, you can unclamp and reclamp different levels or lengths of pipe to make each shot fit what you want. So the setup time is down to about 5 to 10 minutes with a good crew that knows this well. And like I said, if you're just looking for a little bit of movement or parallax in a shot, you can do that with just 4 feet of rail. If you see, I'm hanging out in about 3-4 feet of rail. And as you can see, we're not level right now. The number one thing I tell people to bring on set as a key grip, because you're helping build these, level. Put a level right here on the dolly, put it over here on the track, put it over here. And then you know, am I level back to forwards, which involves changing the Rocky Mountain leg to make this level. Am I level along the track? And then on the actual Dana dolly, am I good? Now, most of the time that's the DP's world. So I usually stick to just the track and the end of the track. Anybody have any questions? Pretty straightforward? Cool.